It's been a while since we've talked about this very particular prospect on the Montreal Canadiens, and he's a guy whose name you've kind of heard floating around there, but not really too much. I feel like when it comes to the Canadiens and the defensive prospects they have, everybody likes to talk about all the same young guys. Caden Gooley, Jordan Harris, Jaden Struble, Justin Barron, Arbor Xhekaj, Lane Hudson, Logan Mailloux, Matthias Norlinder. A lot of the same guys, right? But when it comes to this name right here, he's not really on the North American radar because he's not playing in North America, but back when he was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, we did make an initial video saying that he was an analytical darling. Let's talk today about KHL defenseman Bogdan Konyushkov. And that's exactly right. You're reading the title, you saw the thumbnail. Bogdan Konyushkov is a total beast for Torpedo in the KHL. He's a 21-year-old right-handed defenseman, 5'11", 176, and this season for Torpedo Novgorod, he's gotten himself the captaincy on the team, which, if you're paying attention, is pretty big news when you consider the fact that he is this young as a defenseman in that league. 21 years old, with the captaincy, 28 points in 65 games played, so a slight improvement over his 25 points in 64 games last year. Bogdan Konyushkov, after being a Canadiens 4th-round pick in 2023 as I believe he was a double overage player. Yeah, that's exactly what he was, a double overager, has really taken the KHL by storm as being one of these leaders and one of the most valued young players in the entire league. Last time we had talked about Bogdan Konyushkov, it was about the fact that he was doing alright in the KHL and how because you're taking a look at the profile, seeing any young defenseman going out there and doing this well definitely bears repeating. Even the Dobber Prospects report goes out there and says that Konyushkov exudes skill and creativity and plays with enticing physicality despite being undersized. If he ever comes to North America, he could be a top 4 NHL piece, which is great. Even the September 2023 report goes out there and says that Konyushkov kicked off his second KHL campaign right where he belonged, on Torpedo's first pair, playing a whopping 24 minutes and 52 seconds time on ice. There aren't many 20-year-olds in the entire world who play a number 1 defenseman role on a men's team. What Konyushkov is doing is very special. It'll be exciting to see how he does this year. He clearly has the support of his organization. And man, oh man, support is right. Because if you take a look at what the Torpedo Hockey Club has been up to lately, they just played off a game against SKA St. Petersburg, and the game went to overtime, and the SKA team ended up winning. But Bogdan Konyushkov in this 3-2 overtime loss for Torpedo ended up playing a total ice time of 37 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, the game itself lasted about 88 total minutes if you look at the actual game log, but the fact is, this guy played almost 2 full periods worth of play in the span of about a game and a third. That's pretty nuts. If you really think about it, hey, there was about 88 minutes time on ice, and if he played about this much, then he played roughly half the game, just under half the game, right? So give him an estimated ice time in a full 60-minute game of about 25 to 27 minutes, and that's kind of what you got here. But the fact is, Bogdan Konyushkov went out there with a super high ice time, and it's really starting to get Canadiens fans excited as to where this is going. Alex from Habs Coverage went out there and tweeted this: for a 4th-round draft pick, Nick Bobrov absolutely cooked with the Bogdan Konyushkov selection. And just in case you were wondering, you can also see in the same graphic that Carolina Hurricanes prospect Alexander Nikishin logged 39 minutes time on ice himself, so he's doing pretty alright too, if you ask me. But regardless, there is still a good amount of hype about him, and I wanted to go over to the Canadian subreddit because there are some good opinions shared about him, like this one from Easy3006. Were you here at the beginning of the season when Bogdan Konyushkov was on par with, or even better than, Alexander Nikishin in production, and some people called him a better prospect than him? He's definitely a good bet for a 4th-round pick. Captain of a KHL team at 21 years old, and most productive defenseman on the team. Top 15 in production in the KHL for defensemen on par with players like Jeremy Waugh and Ryan Merkley, who was once highly touted NHL prospects. I watched him a lot when watching Silayev and Artamanov this season, and in my opinion, he's very Jordan Harris in the way that he plays. Does everything pretty well outside of that shot, but no particular skill really stands out. Skating is fine, puck skills are fine, but he seems to have good awareness, vision, and timing. I don't think he's a blue-chip prospect at all, but I think he will make his way to the NHL and have a career. Now, that's an interesting perspective to go out there and say, mostly because it dissuades the idea that a guy who produces a whole bunch of points is going to come over to the NHL and, surprise, surprise, produce a whole bunch of points. Because I think when it comes to KHL production, you always have to take it with a grain of salt. Of course, the reliability, the captaincy, the role that he has, you're not going to deny that. That's all good. But the translatability of these skills into the National Hockey League game is not guaranteed from KHL player to KHL player. Sometimes you have your studs, like the Panarins, the Kaprizovs, and the Kuzmenkos. Other times you have your duds, like the Shipachevs and the, if you want to go to defenseman route, the Nikita Zaitsevs and the, what is the guy's name? Igor Ozhaganovs. Yes, you've got him, you've got the Philip Larsons, you've got the Oliver Koskis, all these guys who looked so good in European hockey, but who just could not get it done in terms of producing at the NHL level. So Bogdan Konyushkov isn't really producing all too much compared to many of those guys anyway, and he's doing alright, but of course, he is young, but maybe not the youngest in regards to Canadiens prospects. In fact, there's another perspective brought up over here by Kozed, not to take anything away from Bogdan, but quote-unquote, at his age isn't really a huge flex. He's 21, older than Mailloux, Hudson, and Engstrom. If he was drafted in his first year of eligibility, he'd be in his draft plus 3 right now. It'd be right around his breakout age for a defenseman in a league of the KHL levels, which is probably below the AHL right now. Then there is the reply, I understand that he is an overager, but I think being a number 1 defenseman in the KHL at 21 is still very impressive and not common at all. And so when it comes to Bogdan, this is a prospect that is going to be really difficult to try to label where his ceiling is going to go in the next few years. His production probably can take a little bit of a step up if he's given more so of a rein offensively to do his thing. I mean, he seems more so like just a regular old two-way guy who makes the right reads, but who may have a little bit of untapped potential at that offensive side too. But at the end of the day, this is a captain of a KHL team who happens to belong to Montreal for the next few years at a very ripe young age in his early 20s while being a right-handed defenseman. There's so many factors with his profile that align to make him seem more valuable to a team like the Habs that could use some right-handed defenseman depth long-term, that you kind of have to consider Bogdan as one of these main guys to think about. I mean, we had seen other KHL defensemen in the Montreal system do pretty well, like Alexander Romanov. Remember when he was drafted in 2018? He was in the KHL, he did all these things, and he came over, and I guess he got traded, but now in New York, he's playing 20 minutes a night. Like, he's doing a pretty good job, and he was developed in the KHL to play with the Canadiens before getting sent over. So there is an all right amount of experience, I feel, that the Montreal Canadiens have when it comes to letting these KHL defenders develop and eventually bringing them over. Romanov was a good example. We'll see if Bogdan Konyushkov is able to follow in his footsteps. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this young defenseman in the Canadian system playing 37 gosh darn minutes in one game in the KHL playoffs. He's balancing it out with that top defenseman in Nikishin on the other side, who happens to be a Carolina prospect, and everything is looking to seem pretty fine when it comes to their development. So thoughts in the comment section below if you're a Canadiens fan or a Laval Rocket fan. Where do you see Konyushkov playing in the next few years? How good do you think he's going to be at the NHL or AHL level? Do you think there is potential top 4 status here with this guy with the Habs? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.